back to my channel. Today we are going to be diving into the new major Sculpt palettes that Patrick Ta just launched. They are currently now available on the Sephora website, or you can also pick them up on the Patrick Ta website. So these were right up my alley because if you guys have been with me for a minute, you know that I am not a contour person. I don't know what I'm doing. When it comes to powder contour, it's just so far past my wheelhouse. I just recently started contouring. I would say maybe 6-8 months ago. So cream contour for me is just so much more comfortable. And I feel like it's like beginner friendly. If I get too much, I can tap it out with my sponge. And with powder, it's almost like you have to worry about blending it perfectly and you have to have the right brushes. And if you don't apply it with it, like I get really nervous when it comes to powder contour. It's just not, whew, I get nervous. So when he launched these, I was very excited because I love a cream contour. I love a bronzer. I was here for it, right? So these retail for $38. He launched 3 different shade variations in these palettes. So up here on the screen are the variations of the palettes that he launched. And I went ahead and picked up the medium palette, which this one is called She's Sculpted. So this is the color of the contour, and then you have the bronzer right below it. This is the palette that works best for my skin tone. This is the medium palette. And if you are curious or new to my channel, I will leave a list in the description box down below of popular foundations out on the market and what shades I wear in those foundations, just so you can kind of use it as a guide. I'm like a medium to tan with a very warm undertone. So then I also picked up the darkest palette, which this one is called She's Chiseled. Now, of course, I knew this would not work for my skin tone. Like, you can tell it's not going to work for me, but I wanted to pick it up so that I could swatch it and compare it next to a lot of other bronzer contour products that I have in my collection in case you have a deeper complexion. Because this is a deeper palette and I think it will work for a pretty good variety of darker complexions. So I wanted to go ahead and pick it up just to show you guys what it looks like next to a bunch of other products that I have in my collection. We're gonna go ahead and jump into the applications. Just letting you know up front, I did have a little bit of an issue when I first applied these. After taking off my makeup and redoing it, I have realized that I think it was the brushes that I was using. I'm not quite sure because now that I applied it this time, it worked perfectly. I'm wearing the Patrick Ta on this side. On this side, I'm wearing the contour and bronzer that I typically wear, which is the Tom Ford Shade and Illuminate Contour and the Gucci bronzer over top. Because when I first applied these, it didn't quite work. Anyway, we're gonna go ahead and jump into the application. I'm gonna show you guys how I applied these palettes on my skin. And then of course, we will jump into swatches and comparisons. We'll get into comparing all of these products next to a bunch of other products. And then of course, I will get into my full final thoughts at the end. So without further ado, let's go ahead and jump straight into the application. Okay, so let's try on these new contour and bronzer palettes from Patrick Ta. So I got the 2 darker shades. I got the medium palette and the dark palette. This is the She's Sculpted palette for the medium. And then this is the deep, which is She's Chiseled. So of course I will swatch these next to a bunch of different products that I have. But it looks like just by looking at it, like I haven't touched the bronzer yet. And I don't know that it's going to show up on camera, but there's some, like, there's a little bit of shine, a little bit of radiance coming through. Can you see? My nail just dug into it, but can you see those little flecks of something in there? This is my favorite brush to apply cream contour. Now, as many of you guys know, if you've been with me for a while, you know that powder contour is not my favorite. I'm just not comfortable using powder contour. I don't really know how to use it. I don't know what brushes to use. I'm much more comfortable with a cream contour because, in my opinion, the easiest to use. That's just for me, but we'll see how this works. Okay, so the one thing that I noticed is that this color is a little bit gray. It does kind of have a gray undertone, which I have really warm skin, so grays are hard for me, but it's not super gray. So it's a little bit more on the neutral side. So it has some grayness to the color, but it does have but it does have a little bit of red in it, a little bit of brown in it. So it's, I would say this is more of a neutral than a gray based contour. Now in the deep, this one seems like it has more of a red undertone. Yeah. So this one looks like it's got more of the red undertone. So this is the contour from the medium and the contour from the deep palette. So this is the medium bronzer and this is the deep bronzer. I kind of think I might get the brush. I kind of might put that in my cart right now. I kind of feel like the brush might be like the perfect cream contour brush for me because I prefer a cream contour. So I'm actually going to add that to my cart right now, and I'm going to hurry and check out really fast because I was going to buy it and I thought, no, I don't need it. But now, like watching him use it, the way that the angle is, I feel like it might be the perfect brush for me. With the sale going on and stuff right now at Sephora, I might as well pick it up. You know what I mean? Like, why not? Today, I'm just going to use my favorite cream contour brush. This is from Refer. I can't remember what the number is. This one is a prototype. I'll put the number here at the bottom of the screen because I can't remember. I also have this brush that just came in like a Luxie kit. This is the 542 flat contour, and this might be a perfect brush to kind of pack it into. So I might use both of them just to kind of try it out. So I'm going to grab the middle shade right here and just place it right here on the cheekbone. Again, I just feel more comfortable with a cream contour. Cream contour just works so much better for me. I already have high cheekbones, so I don't bring it down too far. I like to just kind of add a little bit of definition, but I already have a lot of cheekbone. Like you can tell, like this side I haven't done anything with. I already have a shadow there, right? Because that's what contour is doing. It's going to create shadows in the face and kind of give a little bit more of a sculpted look. But I always like the contour underneath the bronzer. I feel like because like once I go in with the bronzer, the contour underneath just gives me that chiseled look. So for me, I was one of those that never wore contour, right? So I went years without wearing contour. What made me kind of fall in love with contour is that even though I already have shadows on my cheekbones because I do have high cheekbones, what happens when I go in with a bronzer, the bronzer kind of brings it all together and I kind of lose the definition, even though I have it to begin with. So when I put contour on, I don't lose that definition. This does have a gray base, but because it's more of a neutral tone, it's not really stark gray on my skin. I'm going to go into the deep palette and I'm going to stick it right here. And then I'm just going to take my sponge and kind of push it into the skin. This is the deep. This is the medium. I'm going to take some of the medium and put it up here on the forehead. I like to contour my forehead because I have a longer forehead, right? So even though I have high cheekbones, I have a pretty wide forehead. So I like to bring my forehead down a little bit and kind of give me a little bit of structure up here. I don't apply a lot, you know, I'm not one that applies a lot, but I do apply contour. So this is something that is a part of my daily routine. Currently, I use the Tom Ford Shade and Illuminate. Now, I use it in shade 2 just because shade 2 is more my jam. I don't have to use as much because it is a darker shade and I can blend it out and it matches really good. Like it contours really good. It's got a good undertone for me, even though it is dark, but I just don't use very much, right? So because it's a cream, it just melts right into the skin. So I'm going to use the Sculpt One brush from Sonia G, and I'm going to grab the bronzer in the medium palette. This is with bronzer and this is without. This has a tiny bit of radiance, but I would say the Wayne Goss, his new bronzer and contour, his bronzer has much more radiance to it, but at such a very soft, beautiful Like his bronzers are gorgeous because they're very lightweight. They have a small amount of radiance. I'm gonna grab the bronzer in here. This is gonna be dark for me, so I'm only gonna pick up a little bit of this because this is gonna be too dark. I pretty much only got it for the contour because I wanted to see what the contour was, but this is gonna be a little bit too dark and a little bit too red for my undertone when it comes to a bronzer. I'm probably able to make it work, but I don't think it's the right tone. You can see this side just looks a little bit more softer. This is a little bit more, right? So I'm gonna go ahead and powder and kind of buff all of this together, and then we'll see what it looks like once I powder. So I'll be right back. So I just powdered and something weird happened, and I'm not sure what it is. But do you see this like dark spot right here? This is not hyperpigmentation. I'm not sure what is coming on. Like, I don't know what, and I have it on this side too. And it's almost like the bronzer attached to the contour. You can see right here, I'm gonna wipe this off so you guys can see. I'm gonna have to redo my makeup, but that's okay. Oh, I mean, it's worth it. Almost like I need to reuse this again. I need to use it again and see, but it did it on this side too. So I'm gonna wipe this off. Can't figure it out. Yeah, it's like attaching to my, I've never had that really happen with my other cream contour. Now I've had that happen with powder contour, but not cream. Normally with my Tom Ford cream contour, I can go right over top and it blends beautifully. Like any bronzer doesn't attach to it. So I feel like I need to kind of I need to wash my makeup off, and not my eye makeup, but I need to wash my face makeup off, put my foundation back on, redo the whole situation, and we're gonna come back and I'm gonna try this formula compared to my typical routine. I think that's the best way for me to really know if this is a good formula. It's not, I gotta redo it. So I will be right back. So I'm back. I went ahead and wiped off all my face makeup, washed my face as good as I could, put my foundation back on, and here we are. So this is the contour product that I use. And like I said, it's a dark shade, but I only use a tiny bit of it. I'm gonna put a little bit of that like right here. And you see how it blends? Like I don't even have to go in with my sponge. So this is my preferred contour. It's expensive. It's $88, by the way. I have the Charlotte Tilbury contour wand. Love that one. The Danessa Myrix is very similar to this contour from Tom Ford. I'm going to use this medium shade in this palette. I'm going to use this shade right here because this is the bronzer I'm going to be using. So I'm going to go right over top of the cheekbone right here in the hollow. And then, of course, I'll take the sponge and kind of push it into the skin. I'm gonna grab the Gucci bronzer. This is the one I pretty much reach for all the time. I'm gonna wipe my brush off. Just kind of tap it on top here. So I'm done with the bronzer and contour on this side, which is what I typically use on a regular basis. Okay, I'm gonna wipe my brush off, my bronzer brush. I'm gonna use the same brushes because, you know, you just never know if it's the brush that does it or what. So I feel like wiping the brush off and using the same brushes are definitely the right thing to do. So I'm gonna grab the bronzer in the Patrick Ta. I'm going to go ahead and grab some powder. I'm going to powder everything and then see, because it seemed like everything looked good until I went over it with powder. And then once I went over with powder is when I started noticing those spots. So I will be right back. Okay, so I went ahead and finished, and I'm not seeing any of the dark spots. So it must have been the brushes that I used. I did use a little bit different brushes, and I'm wondering if when I went in with this brush right here, the way that I angled it, it put a lot of the product right here in this area. And I'm wondering if that's what it did. It did do it on the other side, but I'm not seeing it this time. Like, this looks really smooth, right? Like, I don't see any dark spots at all. I still have the contour under here. I have that shadow, and I mean, I think it's fine. So it had to have been the way that I applied it the first time, which is, you know, can happen, but it's always good to kind of check and make sure that that's what it was. This does look really beautiful. And I will say this is a little bit lighter for me, more so than this side, obviously, but I think it looks really pretty on this. This is the final look, and I think everything turned out really beautiful. I love the way that this looks, and I have decided that I am going to play with this one more time. Because I had such a different experience the first time and then such a great experience the next time, I need to wear this one more time in order for me to determine my full thoughts on this. In order for me to feel good about my review, I need to be thorough. I'm a thorough girl. You guys know I like to be thorough. So in order for me to feel good about my review, I need to go through this one more time, play with them, you know, use it again, and then I will be able to determine my full thoughts on it. So the next time you guys will see me will be tomorrow after I used it, and we will get into my full thoughts then. So I will see you guys then. Okay, so let me go ahead and get into my final thoughts. It's the next day. I did apply the shade She Sculpted on both sides of the cheeks today. Didn't have any issues. So the first time I used it, I must have just used different brushes and it attached weird, but today it blended out beautifully just like it did the second time that I used it yesterday. And I'm really glad I held off just to make sure that it was an application error versus a problem with the product, right? So let me go ahead and get into my final thoughts. I think these are beautiful. And if you prefer a cream contour over a powder contour, I think you'll really love the formula. So the one thing that I do want to say is the shade She Sculpted. This works for my skin right now, but I haven't been out in the sun yet. So as summer comes, I'm not sure how this is going to work. I don't know that this palette, which is She's Chiseled, I don't know if this will work for me. I think the contour would, but I definitely don't think I could ever wear this bronzer. So I think there is a missing gap. Kind of the same scenario with the Wayne Goss bronzer and contour palettes. There is one missing. So, you know, this is the darkest palette. This is deep copper. This is not going to work for a wide variety of deeper skin tones. That's kind of the same thing with the Patrick Ta. I think this palette will work for a darker complexion, but I feel like between medium and dark, there is a gap. If you have more of a tan or a light dark kind, you're going to kind of struggle with trying to find which one will work best for you because there is kind of a gap. Now, I didn't buy the lightest palette, so I'm not sure if there is a gap there too. If you can find your right shade, this is a great product. I don't have anything negative to say about the cream product. I don't have anything negative to say about the bronzer. I will say though, it has a little bit of radiance to it, but not like the Wayne Goss. The Wayne Goss does have this bronzer. The contour is not my favorite because it's too gray for my skin. Even though, for me, I need something a little bit more neutral. This is more on the gray side. By the way, this is the satin bronze. This is just way too gray for my warm skin. And as you saw in the swatches, I mean, it's gray on me, right? But the one from Patrick Ta is a little bit more neutral. So the contour works, but the bronzer in the Wayne Goss is gorgeous. This bronzer gives such a warmth to the skin in such a radiant way where you can't see any kind of highlight. It's almost like you can't tell, but it makes a difference, right? So it's like you can't see it, but you can see it. It's kind of hard to explain, but this is a very natural, radiant bronzer. It doesn't emphasize texture anyway. It just gives such a beautiful glow to the skin. Very beautiful. The bronzer, gorgeous in the Wayne Goss. The contour formula of the powder is great. It blends beautifully, but it just was too gray for me. All of them were a little bit too gray for me. But the Patrick Ta, on the other hand, and I'm not so sure if it has anything to do with it being cream versus powder. Maybe that's why the Patrick Ta in the She Sculpted, which is the medium, this just comes off a little bit more neutral. It's still got a gray base, which is not my favorite, but it's still a little bit more neutral than this from Wayne Goss. Let me show you the difference. You can see this one is the one from Wayne Goss. This is the one from Patrick Ta. So this one is just too gray. This one has a little bit more yellow in it than this one, so it comes off on my skin a little bit more neutral. So to kind of like narrow it all down, it all depends on what you're comfortable with. If you like a cream contour and a bronzer, it's kind of a no-brainer to get the Patrick Ta. By the way, I wanted to mention that these are made in Italy, which is amazing. Like, I love that this is made in Italy. So you get 6.8 grams worth of product in the cream, and you get 9 grams worth of product in the powder. So that's the deal on that. But if you love cream contour, I think you'll love these. I love a cream contour, so this is just like a win-win for me. And I think they're beautiful. I really do. I hope that the swatches were helpful for you so you could kind of see maybe which palette might work best for you. I tried to show as many variations as I can, but I hope it was helpful. And I hope that the swatches of the palette She's Chiseled was helpful because, you know, obviously I'm not going to be able to wear this, but I am going to gift it to a friend that will be able to wear it, which she will love it. But like, I wanted to show you guys what it looks like next to this palette, and in case you're maybe a light dark and you were trying to decide which palette might work, because this one does have such red tones to it. So I thought that might be helpful for you guys. So sound out down below in the comment section. Let us know how you guys are feeling. If you guys have picked these up right now while the Sephora sale is going on, you can get them for 20% off right now if you're a Rouge member. That is a screaming deal for these because they're really beautiful. So I wouldn't buy these unless you like cream contour. It doesn't make sense to me. If you don't like cream contour, there's no point to buy these. If you prefer a powder contour, then I recommend the Wayne Goss, as long as you don't have really warm skin. Because if you have warm skin like I do, you might struggle with the contour colors being so gray. Plus, I'm just not comfortable with powder contour. But the bronzer, it's perfection. Absolutely beautiful bronzers. So sound out down below in the comment section. Let us know how you guys are feeling. Thank you so much for hanging out with me in today's video. I hope you guys all have a wonderful day, and I will see you guys all in my next video. Love you. Bye.